Got it. And we got everyone? Anyone else we're waiting on?
I don't think so. Ben's not here.
Ben, okay. All right. Good afternoon. You are viewing, okay, we're on in the back, Wausau Waterworks Commission. It is 1:31, council chambers, and we're ready to go. We have a quorum and missing 2 members who have been excused. And I'd like to welcome Alder Watson as our new Alder Commissioner. Welcome. All right, item 1 on the agenda is to approve the minutes of May 7th, 2024 meeting. Would entertain a motion from Robinson, second from Watson. All in favor? And that passes. I should have asked if there were any comments, questions on that. John, did you have some hesitation? No. Okay, we're good on the minutes. Director's report on utility operations. Eric.
Thanks, Mayor. Couple items on the first one for a status update on the construction update that's in your packet for the construction itself. One of the updates I would like to point out is the loan approval for the principal forgiveness and the loan is going to City Council next week on June 11th. And then that loan closing will happen, I believe, the 3rd week in June, so that we can pay off the interim financing before the deadline of July 1st. So that's good. We're on track to do that in a timely fashion. For the proposed solar array project, with the possible ARPA funding, that was discussed at the Finance Committee. They wanted some additional information, so that will potentially be discussed again next week for further clarification and further consideration. And then I guess some updates on staffing, and the wastewater facility construction update is in your packet as well. If anyone has any questions of me.
John.
So as it relates to the solar array funding, what types of the questions were there?
They were really looking for, we were looking at, I can't remember if it's 1.2 or 1.4 million dollars in loan. One is, what are the other potential funding sources, as well as what does that debt, over the next 10 years look like in that cost? And is that going to be budget neutral because the cost savings are going to cover that? And Sarah, you were on finance, correct? So I don't know if I missed anything, but those are the key on that. So, yeah.
Actually, I'm not recently on finance, but when you guys were doing in the initial pitch to the community, it sounded like there were a lot of grants. Are those still available, or are they sort of run out?
No, they're available to apply for. We didn't include them in the costs at this point because we're not sure if we would get them, right? So one of them is through the Department of Energy. And then there's also some additional tax credits we're not sure if we're going to be eligible for, which could be another 20% of the project. So we would have to wait, once we get started. We'll need pretty much a full design and site work and everything before we apply for those, so.
Mr. Robinson.
Just a follow-up comment on that. One of those potential grant or opportunities is if it's American-made, and
Yes.
you get additional credits through the federal tax credit. So if we can buy American products, we can save some additional dollars.
Right.
Thank you. Any further comments? Director's report. All right, moving on to item 3, discussion and possible action approving the updated 2025-2029 capital budget for water and sewer. This was brought up by some commissioners who wanted some extra information and an update from last time. So some additional data was added to the spreadsheets. Eric, if you want to
Yeah,
talk to
sure,
that.
Mayor. So the information was really in the data form, at the last meeting, so I tried to break it down and show some graphical pictures of how the debt service, now this is specific to the drinking water. I don't have that information prepared for wastewater yet. I see I did take the draft watermark off it, but, so one of the things that I guess that I had comments I had received from the commission is they wanted a better understanding of what revenues that we have available for our future capital projects and how that's going to affect us as we start, accruing debt and paying down that debt over time. And one of the biggest impacts to our debt is if the water utility were to pick up even a portion of the lead service line on the private side replacements, that has a heavy impact on what the drinking water utility's ability is for capital projects. And so if the utility were to attempt to pick up 100% of those costs, you can see that far exceeds our availability of rate revenues. On the last graph, I show if we did get PSC approval to use 50% on the private side, it looks like it would limit our other capacity to do capital projects on the drinking water side. So, one is I wanted to make sure that I updated the information as requested, but also understand from the commission members if they wanted further detail, other information. This is really just kind of a static in today's dollars. It doesn't show any potential revenue increases or debt that we currently have. If we pay that down, that isn't reflected in these. This is just assuming that we maintain the same debt we have now, payments plus adding. And some of the debt that we do have over the next 4 to 5 years will be paid off, which will give us more capacity. But this is kind of giving you an idea of, what our capacity is on the drinking water side and kind of leading into what Ellers is going to be presenting in August on a much more detailed picture of both the capital and the operating budgets.
Mr. Robinson.
So Eric, refresh me. So you're looking at available funds of 1.6 million. Where is that coming from?
That came from Ellers.
But is that given the current rate structure, what we will generate over project current debt and operating expense?
Yes.
So does that anticipate any inflationary pressures on operating
No,
side?
like I said, that's just
It's just
today's
static.
dollars and stagnant. That's why, when you look at this, the blue lines,
Right.
they're 1.6, they just say straight across, right?
So what has our experience been relative to inflationary pressures on our expenses? And you mentioned that debt is projected to be constant, and we know that it'll be going down. And then in terms of water utilization rates, all of those would impact that
Correct.
line. So while this is illustrative, I don't know that it's as informative as it could be. If we're really trying to structure timing and design of your issues, you would want to try to have a steady debt management. So this, again, it's illustrative, but it's not as informative as we would like. And I hope that Ellers would look at that. If we've got 1.6 million available for all purposes, and we're looking at staffing issues that Scott and others have pointed out in the past, we would need to look at what's available for debt. Then the question becomes...
Just to point out too, that the staffing is included in this. So like,
As an expense.
As an expense,
As
yeah.
part of the Brown.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that this is not, kind of comprehensive, but, one of the biggest questions right now when we're looking at the lead service line replacement ordinance is, how are we going to fund the loan portion of those, of that project as we move forward, right? And, And does the utility have the capability to do it? I think that this helps to answer that question. It may at some level, but we still have to pay for our portion of those services that are in the street, right? So,
So it would be, I think it would be helpful if we could have a true cash flow looking at where our debt, if our debt payments are up or down, if there are
Yep.
opportunities to capture that, if we're decreasing and we can slide in and within that window, you can structure your debt in such a way that you're not, the brown isn't above the blue.
right.
So I would hope that we could do that with Ellers going forward.
Yeah, they will be providing that comprehensive, in August. I will likely complete this for our next meeting for both of them, because I'm sharing this with Ellers as well on where we're at for our 5-year capital plan, because that's part of what they're going to need as well. So, but I understand that, yeah.
Hopefully the Ellers crystal ball is better than ours right now, but clearly, we've had one full year under our belts here, so hopefully that can be extrapolated out.
And toward that, and have we seen any utilization changes due to the increase in the rates?
Have you seen any usage reduction or anything?
No, but we haven't seen that information with the issues that they're having with Workday and then rolling our new meter system in, and
Sure.
there's some crossover, so we don't have exact data yet.
I think that would be helpful to have when we get that final report from Ellers as well. If we're projecting based upon a 4.8 million gallons a day and we're down to 4.4, it would be materially different.
Sure.
And part of the reason we postponed that discussion on ordinances, the more data we have, that's going to be complex. Any further questions on that item? I would entertain a motion to
I don't know.
approve, or do we need to kick that
I
down?
don't think that we do. I mean, I put it on there just in case there was
Okay.
something that you wanted to take action, but I think we're okay.
Okay, moving on to item 4, discussion and possible action on demolition of the old water plant at 1801 North River Drive. And we've had some vandalism there recently, and we've also got some interest in what are we going to do with the North Riverfront development. So I think it's time to look at what that looks like in the overall scheme here and get some discussion going. Eric, did you have a starting point, or Scott?
I think one of the things is, that let the commission know that we have had 4 or 5 different break-ins at that building. And we will begin having discussions on, I guess, the fate of that building. We walked through it with community development to determine if the building itself, had any viability from their point on whether we could just possibly RFP that building for reuse. And there really wasn't, I mean, just with the different changes in elevation from place to place and how the building was set up, there wasn't any, they didn't feel that there was really any benefit to keeping the building. That it would be best if when they went out to RFP, that it was assumed that that was just going to be a clear, flat piece of property. So I think those discussions will begin, with the city council as far as the potential for demolition here in the near future, so we can prevent any further squatting and vandalism and things like that. So we'll have to address that.
Mr. Robinson?
So as we're looking at that potential demolition and reuse, are we looking at either state or federal brownfield and other grants as opportunities to help with those costs, given the fact that it's part of that footprint of the Wausau Wellfield Superfund site? You're likely to, with potential redevelopment, have some vapor intrusion issues. I strongly encourage you, as you look at it, before you get too far in the demolition, to see if there's not a way to build those into project costs that might be eligible for some grants.
Yeah, we've been under discussions with that and looking into the EPA brownfield, One of the challenges with that really is they really want to know what the end use is, to really score well in those projects. But we ran into the same thing with a couple other sites in the city, like 1300 Cleveland as well. But I think that depending on how the discussions go over the next couple of months, those applications are due the end of October. And they're pretty intensive, so we would have to get started on that. But it's a good point, yeah.
Mr. Robinson?
So from a utility cash flow perspective, so we've got an asset that is a liability, but that has potential value should the buildings come down. Where do the proceeds from the sale of that property go, and how are we treating that sort of as a, track our expenses and then try to offset those expenses with any sale price, or are we not that far in the process?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different options with that, but we're really not that far in the process, like whether the city decides just to purchase that property and take it over from there, or, I guess there's some different options, but yeah. But the PSC has been sort of silent on this, but typically that facility was purchased using rate revenue, right? And so they haven't specifically stated this in our phone calls with them, but I think that, they would like to see that property or assets not given up for free, right? So, yeah.
So one option could be the city purchases it from the utility and then develop from there. But there's two pieces, and I don't know if they're considered simultaneously, but you have got the meter shop right next door. So that
Right.
I don't know if we considered that as the same part of reuse, non-reuse. If it goes in, is it one piece? I don't know. Mr. Robinson?
So are you looking for a directional motion relative to authorizing appropriate staff to work on obtaining proposals and quotes relative to the demolition and potential reuse of the site?
I think as long as the commission, understands that, really, I think that this is be just further discussion for the city council,
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that you're aware. Jim had brought this up a couple different meetings before this, about having a discussion on it. So I just wanted to give an update that we're not that far along in the process, but I think over the next few months in the budget process, we will be talking about it. So,
Well, it's also, that with some of the acquisitions on the North Riverfront and some, interest in doing more up there, we need to understand what are our potential costs in the next year or two, and then we can use that as we do our planning. So if we don't know right now what we're stuck with, if it's 2 million or 20 million, we need to know that. And I shouldn't use any numbers there, but the point is, I think the sooner we understand that piece, the better we can deploy those development options. So no action required. We'll move that along. Item number 5, discussion and possible action approving the wastewater 2023 compliance maintenance annual report, CMAR, and resolution.
So this is an annual report that you see every year. It needs a resolution through council. It's due the end of June. The compliance maintenance annual report really gives us, or prepares our annual report from the previous year on everything from our loadings, what we're discharging to the river, to our biosolids, to our staffing levels. And it's almost like a self-ranking score that we submit to the DNR on where we're at. And we did very well with our effluent this past year with the new treatment facility. We're well below our limits going out. We're drying our biosolids now. That's going quite well. And we're still trying to optimize some of the operations, but I think as every week goes by, we do better and better. So there's a lot of information in here, but if anyone has any questions, I will. Ben's not here. He's kind of the expert on it, but I have reviewed it as well.
And Mr. Robinson?
First of all, I think it's an excellent report in terms of compliance and meeting all of the BOD and other discharge standards. Any kickback on the spreading the biosolids? Have we had any issues with relative to placement and spreading? What are we, 328, if I remember, acres?
Yeah, that sounds about right, John. But we haven't had any, yeah, you know, we've had, this is just coming from Ben, you know, they've had some questions and things like that, but we've had no real robust discussions or any issues with properties, property owners, farm owners as far as land application at this point, so.
So is the issue forwarding this report and recommending the council adopt it appropriate?
Yes, at the end of it, there's a draft resolution that will go to council, so, yeah.
So this would go to the June 11th council meeting, so we would ask for a motion and a resolution, yes.
So I would move that we accept the report and refer the resolution to the council for adoption.
Motion from Robinson, looking for a second. From Watson. Further discussion on forwarding the resolution to council for June 11? We can vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that passes. Item 6, discussion on scheduling the July 2nd meeting. And we're looking at potentially moving it to June 25th. And I think we did a survey on that. It looked like 10:30 or 11 or 1:30 is, did we get feedback from everybody?
I don't know that we did. Jim didn't respond either when.
Nobody responded, so we're going to just discuss it here.
Okay, so we didn't get official responses. So we're looking at potentially moving from July 2nd to June 25th, 10:30 or 1:30 PM. Any feedback on that? Take your time, look at your calendars.
Either time works.
Okay.
I mean, so that's a vote for June 25th, Mr. Robinson? Alder Watson?
I just have a WCDA board at noon, so I don't know if the meeting would be done if it started at 10:30.
I think it would.
Okay.
Yeah,
So either time is fine with me.
okay.
10:30? Or you said either time? Do we want to check with,
I'm okay.
Okay.
So they're okay with either time, so maybe we could get Joe and Jim.
and I'm okay with either time, so we'll
Okay.
confirm that with the other two and make sure we can get as many here as possible.
Thank you.
I guess I also had a question is, I don't know, I know we're pretty firm with the time and date, usually Tuesdays at 1:30. Is there any flexibility, especially since water issues are a concern for a lot of people and in the middle of the day is sometimes tough to get to? Has there ever been a consideration of doing it like earlier in the morning or
Yes.
after work?
So we have looked at potential, like, Police and Fire Commission meets at 7:30. We looked at potentially over lunch period, like 11:30 to 1. So those are options. We didn't poll it with everybody, but it was something we considered. If that's something would be beneficial to you, I mean, we could talk about it.
It would be amazeballs. I usually teach at 1 o'clock on Tuesdays, but,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh,
But not for the
okay.
summer, but yeah. So
Okay.
summertime's good, but.
How would you suggest we move that? So we potentially,
We could put that on on July's meeting for a discussion to see if
if we get the rest of
change
the
that.
folks here,
Okay.
that would be good.
The
Okay.
July meeting in June?
The June, July meeting.
June, yeah. The June 25th meeting, how's that?
Close enough. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the meeting. We had to entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Watson, second by Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
And that is approved. Thank you.